Kevelighan with III, here again for another executive exchange. You know, III is always looking to inform important discussions and understanding of insurance and risk management. And captives are oftentimes something that do need a little bit more understanding. And we've had the fortunate opportunity to work with Captive Resources to help us and to help our viewers better understand what it is captives do and how they function. So today, I've got Chief Marketing Officer for Captive Resources, John Pontin, with us. John, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
So, John, you know, we've got a very high inflationary element in our economy right now, particularly social inflation, or what we at III call legal system abuse, which is just running rampant. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of what the aspects of group captives are and how they operate even in this type of environment we're seeing today with different types of inflation and legal abuse.
Sure. Well, first I would say, fundamentally the whole group captive concept is, predicated upon the primary purpose being to help lower insurance costs for, best in class middle market and upper middle market classes. So the whole concept was essentially invented on the premise that you can actually control your costs regardless of what's happening out in the industry or what's happening regarding third parties. Pricing, for instance, is done based off of an actuarial analysis, not off of a pricing model or based upon industry rates or averages. So first and foremost, the entire concept is predicated upon that. But you mentioned pretty particularly trends in large claims and runaway claims and things like that. And I would say one thing that's a major advantage of the group captive model versus the traditional insurance model is really participation in the claims process, right? It's participation in pre-loss mitigation, which is really fundamental to what we do. But it's also, post-loss support, commitment. Our members of group captives, not just ours, but all group captives, have actually a say in that process, and they have a seat at the table, when it comes to how the handling occurs, which is quite a bit different from how it might traditionally work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that is the difference between another type of insurance that is owned by the members, a mutual, right? In this case, as we understand it, the captives, the members are actually, very much engaged in the business operations of it and actually invests, capital assets in the overall captive as well. So why we noticed as well that these captives rarely get formed. They actually more so people are joining a captive. So yeah. Why are companies and why should a company think about joining a captive?
So I would say, my best answer to that is really twofold. One, it kind of comes down to that cost aspect again, right? There are things that happen when they get together. The consultant has legal departments, they have experience supporting and assisting the management of the program, full claims departments, full loss control departments, all things that if businesses came together would take quite a while to sort of build that out, and it would take enough scale to make it actually even feasible to have them build it out versus the packaged approach, which the consultants typically have, which is the ability to sort of support them in the management of all aspects of running their program. But I actually think, while that is absolutely serious, the biggest aspect is the ability to get spread of risk, right? Any insurance company, whether it's a group captive, whether it's a mutual, whether it's any type of traditional insurance company, they need spread of risk. They want geographic spread. They want spread amongst their members, what they do. And really, quite frankly, it would be hard for people to build enough spread and also build enough volume for it to make sense to where they were really comfortable at a lot of levels. And so joining a program and finding like-minded companies all across the country, sometimes they choose to be in with like-minded companies in their industry, where they can share different techniques and strategies, or sometimes they join heterogeneous programs where they're actually in and have true spread of risk, all the things they would have in a homogeneous program that's industry specific, but even have it across different industries. So you've got, folks in different types of businesses coming together because they know that, certain risks will be better during sometimes and others during others.
Interesting. So what do you think is most unique about a captive?
What do I think is most unique, right? So I would say really the cultures that they build, the idea that they spend time together. The biggest part of the group captive, which I didn't mention earlier, compared to say mutual or something else, is the true ownership aspect, right? Most business owners or entrepreneurs, they appreciate decision making. They like to take risks at some level, but group captives bring together people like that all across the country, all across different industries, and really create partnerships over time. They spend a couple board meetings a year together. They get to know each other personally, professionally, helps them build networks outside of their local area, right? So if you're a construction company in Georgia and you have a job that pops up in Colorado, you may have a member there that you can sort of share work with and help build your network outside of just sort of your immediate area and industry area. I think another thing that's really unique is the aspect of sort of wealth management. Lots of companies now are moving from first generation to second generation, or second generation ownership to third generation ownership. And one of the things we're finding is that the actual model helps support that, right? The dividend process, the idea that they share in risk. If they do better than what an actuary says, they can control costs by getting premiums back in the form of a dividend. They can then sort of use that to, as a generation moves away from the business, as a way for the next generation to actually pay forward by earmarking those dividends to maybe the original owners. So all kinds of different things. But I would say those two are two that don't jump off the page as the ones that everyone knows.
So we in AAA we talk about this, and it's growing, a disruption continuum, that we're constantly moving different risks and things in the world in and out that we're trying to manage, and we're right in the middle of, whether it's geopolitics or economics, natural catastrophes, the various ways that we're seeing social unrest, and certainly COVID is still having an impact, and technology and innovation. All of those things right now are big, and we're having to manage those risks. Where do you see kind of captives fitting in terms of that moving forward as we're in this kind of riskier world, if you will?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? I'd say this on so I spent 20 years on the carrier side and joined Captive Resources 6 years ago, right? And so while I feel like that's a long time in the group captive world, kept it's been going on for 35 plus years, and so I'm still relatively new to it. But what I can tell you is that everything in the model is formulaic, right? So as things change, things remain the same. Premiums are based upon loss history and your own unique performance and an actuarial analysis, right? Say in the claims process, like those things are really fundamental. The way captives close years, all those things are driven by a formula that stands the test of time and isn't so it isn't so pulled by what's happening recently and in recent trends, right? It's the ability to really sort of predict the unknown and to know that, hey, what you have is not going to change over time. You continue to be focused on loss control. You continue to be the safest company that you can be, and you'll be rewarded in terms of cost, and you'll have really control over your insurance destiny, which I don't think those things you mentioned impact that so much, right? And reinsurance costs would be something that was bigger. It's one of the largest costs in the captive is the cost of reinsurance, because captives take a lower retention. Still, those traditional insurance companies love this business because they come in above a retention, but they're coming in above a substantial deductible, right? And so they like that. Performance has always been really, really good. And I always go back to the same thing. It's formula driven. It's allows companies to control their insurance destiny, and those aren't quite as variable to what's happening in the world as some other things.
All right, John, this has been really informative. You get one for me here, but be kind, given I'm learning from you all on captives here.
No, it's wonderful, right? To have someone like Triple I that takes interest in this. We're always honored by that. So the one simple one I have is, where do you see group captives positioned in terms of the middle market to upper middle market commercial insurance landscape?
Yeah, so it is. I've had, we have what I would call an insurance spectrum or a risk management spectrum, and this is just one of those effective tools. You mentioned, and you've been in that part of the business, that the traditional insurance model serves a value to customers, and certainly this does as well. I would say as you've mentioned time and time again, these middle market companies that very much understand their business and the specific risks they have and are very vested in those risks. We like to say at AAA that we're shifting the entire industry into a predict and prevent model from one that's been a kind of more of a detect and repair. And I would say captives have long been in that because the customers have literally a vested interest in managing their risks, both in terms of what capital they're putting in, but those dividends that you're talking about that can come back to them. And so that to me it makes it an effective tool for those that have those specific types of risks. I think you mentioned workers' compensation tends to be one of those risks that are more predictable because if you're a safer company, you can better predict and you can better prevent those risks. Similarly with liability in those areas and being safety conscious. So it's a specific type of offering that I think fits very well into the spectrum of insurance and risk management. So listen, John, we appreciate you all and the education that you've brought to us and our viewers at III, and I appreciate your time here today with this exchange.
Yeah, wonderful. We can't thank you enough. And anytime you need something, we've got a wealth of folks that would love to come on and talk to you about what we think's a really great, fantastic product.